Hi, my name is Eve Brensike Primus. I'm a graduate of Michigan Law. I was a trial and appellate public defender before I returned to Michigan Law to join the faculty, where I am teaching criminal procedure, evidence, and Public Defender Training Institute courses. The Public Defender Training Institute is a year-long immersion into the world of indigent defense for students who are interested in pursuing careers as public defenders. It starts with a 3-day intensive retreat in the fall, where students learn fundamental skills of public defense, and then continues with courses every week throughout the remainder of the year for them to learn both the hard and soft skills of how to be effective advocates with and for their clients. MDefenders is a faculty-sponsored group here at the law school that is designed to introduce students to the world of public defense, to help people who might be curious about indigent defense work figure out if it would be right for them, and to provide training, support, and community for anyone who's interested in pursuing a career in public defense. I teach Socratically, which means I ask a lot of questions in the classroom. I like to think of myself as challenging, but also inclusive in the way that I run my classroom. I have a lot of energy and enthusiasm for the subjects that I teach, and I think that kind of comes across as infectious with my students. I teach mostly criminal and litigation-based courses, so I'm often having students in hypotheticals assaulting each other or being searched by each other and asking, is that something that's lawful or not lawful for people to do? I also incorporate a lot of multimedia into my classrooms, showing students video clips of a police encounter and helping them walk through what it looks like to analyze that, to incorporate law, to incorporate policy, to incorporate social science into their arguments, to try and form them as advocates going forward. Or we'll have clips from actual trials out in the world, and they'll have to analyze whether there are evidentiary objections that they should be making to the way in which those courtroom proceedings are unfolding. So it tries to bring both the real world into the classroom without losing any of the theoretical foundation of the law that I think is important for them to understand to become effective advocates. So that's one of the things I would say is, I think, special about Michigan law, is the infusion of the practical and the theoretical. I think there are a lot of law schools that teach you the theory or the history of the law disconnected from what's happening in the world. And there are other law schools that will teach you what's happening on the ground, but it will be disconnected to how the law got formed to become the way that it is. And one thing that I think Michigan Law's faculty prides itself on is the ability to infuse the doctrine and the theory in ways that enable students to see how this law started, where it came from, how it was formed, what the gaps are in the law, how it looks on the ground, and where there's opportunity for them as lawyers to not only replicate the arguments that have come before them, but to change and raise the level of representation in whatever field they pursue. I think I always wanted to be a public defender from as long as I can remember, in part because I have always been someone who wanted to fight for the underdog, and I never really believed in punishment systems. So I remember a day when I was working as a criminal investigator for the Public Defender's Service of Washington, D.C., which I did before law school. And I was in Southeast Washington, D.C., watching as a police officer, for no particular reason, picked up a black member of that community, threw them on the roof of a car, and searched them without any reason to do so. And I drove home that night by the United States Supreme Court, where the words "equal justice under law" are etched into the building. And I remember at that moment actually starting to laugh in my car at the idea that we have an equal justice system in this country, and knowing that lawyers are the ones who can be a part of the fight to make it more equal and more just. And I view that as a lot of the work that public defenders do every day, is to stand in courtrooms and to say, I am here to be the fly in the ointment of the machinery and not allow you to just process black and brown bodies into prison. I'm going to stand up and make you realize that the person you're trying to cage is a human being with a family, is someone who's deserving of dignity and respect, and shouldn't be judged solely by the worst thing they may have ever done over the course of their life. So that's what brought me to law. I think what brought me into law teaching was a desire to help students see their power as lawyers in the system to effectuate change and to amplify their abilities to fight for a more equal and just system as they head out into the world. It is very hard to encapsulate what Yale Camisar meant to me or to the world in just a sentence. I will say from my part, he was more than just my teacher and my mentor and my colleague. He was my friend, and he was an inspiration to me in more ways than I can probably describe. I think one of the biggest things he taught me is that you have to fight for what you believe in, that these Supreme Court cases, they don't come down as like manna from heaven as the right resolutions to things, that the law is malleable, and that the arc of the law will only bend toward justice if the people who believe in justice push the arc and fight for it. So Yale was someone who never compromised on the principles that he believed in, who always pushed people to work hard, to fight hard, and to fight for what was right. And so that's one of the ways in which I will always remember the gift that he gave to me as a law professor. I study indigent defense delivery systems, which means I look at the different ways states and localities around the country provide lawyers to poor people who are accused of committing crimes. In the 1960s, the United States Supreme Court decided a very famous case called Gideon versus Wainwright, saying that every person who's too poor to afford a lawyer, but who is charged with a criminal offense that could put them in jail, is entitled to a lawyer appointed by the state. The ways in which those lawyers get appointed, the ways in which the systems are under-resourced, understaffed, the training, the supervision that is provided, these are all the systems that I study. And I am currently working on a book project about the indigent defense crisis in this country and potential solutions toward reforming it to make it better. Well, there are two buildings of the law school now, and there used to only be one, and there's a lot more technology, both in the classrooms and in the legal world more generally now, than there was when I went to law school here. So those things are definitely different. The thing that has probably remained the same, that I most value having remained the same here at Michigan Law, is the orientation toward teaching and mentoring young lawyers. So one thing I think that is so special about Michigan Law is the way in which the faculty here really invests in the students and the way in which the students invest in each other. And that has been true since the time I was a student here and probably before my time. It is a culture of this place that is designed to make you think about the law and question it and really approach it in a way that enables you to expand your mind and also expand your skill set and send you out into the larger world. The motto for the larger university is leaders and best. And I think Michigan Law really takes that motto to heart. We're not here to crank out lawyers who are just like the lawyers that already exist in the jurisdictions where they will be going. We're here to create leaders who are not just going to be good at being lawyers, but who are going to raise the level of representation wherever they go. And the faculty is committed to giving students the skills that will be necessary to enable them to do that. That's one thing that's always been true about Michigan and something I really value about this place.